to the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Chuck Conrad with a kickoff. Roy is a strong leg, end over end. Sanders takes it 1 yard deep to the end zone. Up the middle of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. He's at the 40, he's at 45, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, 45, 40, 50, 10, 5, touchdown. Just like last year, the same story. Roll out.
Here's your host, Chris Houston.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Heisman Trophy podcast. It's championship game week. We've got BYU and Texas Tech taking on each other in the Big 12 title game. We've got Georgia and Alabama in the SEC title game. You've got Duke and Virginia in the ACC title game. And then number 1 versus number 2, Ohio State, Indiana in the Big 10 title game, and a game that could go a long way in determining the 2025 Heisman Trophy winner. Heisman Trophy voters will be keeping a close eye on that one because this Thursday, December 4th, ballots go out to 930 Heisman voters across the country. And on Saturday around 5 p.m., they'll be able to log on to the voting website and cast their ballots. They'll have until Monday, December 8th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time to submit their ballots. And then shortly after that, the 4 Heisman Trophy finalists for 2025 will be announced. Just to let you know ahead of time, we will be in New York City for Heisman weekend, catching all the behind-the-scenes action. As usual, there's going to be an interesting cast of characters and football legends casting about. And New York City during the Christmas season is always wonderful to behold. So be sure to go to our YouTube channel and TikTok channels for exclusive behind-the-scenes footage and videos of Heisman Weekend 2025. Our guest today is a football legend. He didn't win the Heisman Trophy, but he came awful close. Larry Fitzgerald of Pittsburgh finished second to Jason White in 2003 before going on to an incredible NFL career. But the reason we have him on this podcast today is because of the things he has done off the field. You see, Larry created a foundation back in 2005, the Larry Fitzgerald Foundation, and 20 years later, it is still making a big difference in people's lives. The foundation focuses on 2 pillars, supporting youth education and promoting breast cancer awareness. And for his efforts, the Heisman Trophy Trust is honoring Larry with the 2025 Heisman Humanitarian Award. Larry will be on hand in New York City during Heisman weekend to accept the award, and the trust will present him with a $75,000 donation to support the Larry Fitzgerald Foundation's youth education and breast cancer initiatives. He is the 19th recipient of this honor. Some of the past recipients include such legends as Jeff Gordon, Mia Hamm, David Robinson, Christy Yamaguchi. The last 2 winners have each come on the show. 2 years ago was Coach K, and then last year it was ballerina Misty Copeland, maybe the greatest ballerina of all time. Be sure to go into the archives and check out those interviews. Great stuff from those great humanitarians. We'll be back in a second to talk to Larry about his foundation and reminisce on his football days. But first, a shout out. Kudos to Texas A&M for sending out a magnificent Heisman campaign on behalf of their quarterback, Marcel Reed, this past week. I opened up the package and it included this really handsome-looking packet titled Marcel Mode, and inside was a great poster of Marcel Reed. There was a Marcel Mode towel that if you're a fan, you can go to the game and wave it around. There was also a print edition, an old-school newspaper print edition that had all kinds of accolades about Reed and biographical information. Really cool, creative stuff. What people forget is that the Heisman Trophy is decided by an election, and the rules of elections are the same no matter what kind of election it is. Voters tend to gravitate toward candidates with whom they are the most familiar. Schools employ communications professionals to try to get the word out about the players. We live in a chaotic attention economy, and it's not easy to control the narrative. In fact, some schools don't even try, which is a shame because there's big rewards if you win the Heisman. Not just for the school, but for the player. Last year's Heisman was a pretty close race that could have gone either way. And in the end, the difference might have been a little push.
This is Archie Griffin, 1974, 1975's Heisman Trophy winner, and you're listening to the official Heisman podcast.
The Heisman is handed out every December, but the history of the trophy lives year-round at Heisman.com. Home to the most iconic trophy in sports, Heisman.com tells the story of all 90 of our winners and features news, bios, and statistics on all your favorite Heisman heroes. Heisman.com also highlights our Heisman Humanitarians, the many charities supported by the Heisman Trust, and so much more. Make Heisman.com your first stop for all things Heisman. Our featured guest today is a man who needs no introduction after finishing as a Heisman runner-up in 2003 for the Pittsburgh Panthers before going on to a brilliant NFL career with the Arizona Cardinals. More importantly, he was recently honored by the Heisman Trophy Trust with the 2025 Heisman Humanitarian Award for his tireless work with his foundation. I'm a lucky guy. The previous two Heisman Humanitarian winners that we had on the past couple seasons were Mike Krzyzewski and Misty Copeland. And now I get to welcome Larry Fitzgerald to the Heisman Trophy podcast. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's an honor to be with you. And you mentioned some, amazing people and ambassadors for great sports and just humanitarian missions in general, and Misty and Coach K. And, to be, associated with greatness like that means a lot to me.
Were you surprised when you heard from the Heisman about this award? Was it something that maybe wasn't on your radar, but once you found out, it was one of those things that it was just pretty exciting to learn about?
Yeah, it definitely was not on my radar. Like I didn't expect it. It's not something I had known a lot about. And so over the last couple of weeks, getting to understand about the organization and the things that it's done and how many unbelievable missions that it serves, it just made me really appreciative of the honor and be able to get back to New York and, be there with everybody is really exciting for me.
Your foundation was founded in 2005. It focuses on two core pillars: supporting youth education and promoting breast cancer awareness. Tell our audience about what drove you to start your foundation and why it focuses in those two areas.
Well, yeah, initially in 2005, I was 21 years old, and, my nonprofit philanthropic, background was essentially driven by my mother and her love for it. She actually founded a couple organizations in the Twin Cities area where I grew up. And so like we were at different fundraisers and functions with her all the time. So it just became a part of our fabric as a family, something we really wanted to do, really wanted to lean into. I feel like there's two different sides of philanthropy, right? You have your donors who support organizations, and then you have your operators. And my mother was definitely an operator. And kind of seeing, the struggles that small organizations go through, especially with all the federal cuts to a lot of the nonprofits going on around the country. There's people who have to fill those gaps. And so like that symbiotic relationship that donors and operators have with each other, kind of understood that. And I wanted to make sure that, if I ever had the ability to make it, to be able to have some of my own capital, I wanted to make sure I was doing my part as a philanthropist that was a donor and also as an operator, which I think gives you a unique perspective. And so it was always something I really wanted to do. It's been 20 plus years, still like trying to perfect it and figure out the right formula to be able to do everything that you want to accomplish. And obviously philanthropy is a team sport. It takes the Heisman Foundation, it takes the Larry Fitzgerald Foundation, it takes a lot of other organizations to be able to, bridge the gap where there's so many needs in our country and in our world in general.
Yeah, you launched the Breast Believe campaign, which delivers vital education, prevention, and support resources to women and families in need of support surrounding breast cancer. Tell me more about that initiative.
Well, yeah, I just look back and think about the journey that my own mother went, my Auntie Valerie, my mom's oldest sister went. When somebody's diagnosed, obviously you're dealing with a unbelievable amount of uncertainty. Like your life as you know it is different, right? Mm-hmm. And like, where do you turn? Who do you turn to? If you don't know physicians that are in the immediate vicinity of you where you can reach out to and get information, like where do you go? And the organization was established to be able to help women kind of provide them with the resources that they need, places to turn, from support groups to doctors to treatments, things that they need to be able to overcome that diagnosis. And, so it was really just the roots of kind of what I remember, people very close to me going through and what they needed at that critical moment.
It seems like such a vital service because we've seen there's very little support for research on and women's issues, especially women's medical issues. We don't know a lot about things like postpartum depression and menopause and that kind of thing. Are you looking to expand in other areas as far as women's health, perhaps?
No, it's not something that we've talked about as an organization. It's really like try to focus in on like what we know and what we understand, right? It's we try to be like a foot wide and a mile deep, and what we're able to do. Like it's it's a mission that we're really passionate about. We're really strong. We've learned so much over the last 20 years, and like we want to use that information, knowledge, and resources to focus on, our core pillars.
Got it.
Not saying that not saying that the other women's health are not important. I'm not
Right.
saying that.
Yeah.
We don't want to spread ourselves thin and not do a good job doing the things that we actually really need to focus on.
You can only do so much. You got to focus in an area and do it well. Can you share a story or an example of how your foundation has positively impacted an individual or a community?
Yeah, I mean, so we've done over 700 mobile mammograms, between here in the Phoenix metropolitan area and also back in my native land, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul area, where we take the mobile mammogram unit and bring it to the communities. Sometimes there's a little bit of mistrust in some of the historically underserved communities. And to be able to, kind of bring that level of trust up, we want to bring the resources to them in the communities that they live and they serve and they work in. And so just trying to break down those barriers is something that we really, really stress. So a lot of the times our mobile mammograms events are oversubscribed. So we need to come back again, and we don't want to ever turn anybody away from services that we're providing. So those are some of the things that I'm really proud of. Some of the back to school events that we're able to do. Also, some of the educational tech focused events that we're able to do. So we're really passionate about our youth and supporting them, and we're really passionate about breast cancer health.
You mentioned earlier about the cuts going on with government. Have you guys had more of a challenge in recent months trying to fill those gaps?
I wouldn't say our organization personally has, but like when we're out and we're talking to smaller organizations that that need grants from us and other larger, orgs. I mean, you definitely do hear about, hey, we were getting this, and that has completely gone missing, and we need to be able to fill the gap in our budget by this amount. Anything that you can do to help us or introduce us to other donors will be great. And so we do hear and see it, but us personally, no, because we don't get any federal or state funding.
Got it. The foundation hopes to bridge the digital divide that exists for underserved youth, providing more access to technology for those who have difficulty getting it. We've recently seen, however, that exposure to some forms of technology, specifically social media, can have some bad effects on youth. Has that understanding shaped your efforts in this area?
No, that wasn't really a focus of ours. Obviously, like our goal is to be able to bring technology into underserved communities, right? You look at some of the affluent schools and some of the schools that struggle with funding, like what the kids have access to, Wi-Fi, being able to do their work online, to be able to turn their assignments, and all of these things are things that we try to focus on. Obviously, we can't make the kids not look at Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever that is, but being able to give them the resources to be able to create a future that they are proud of is something that I think is important for us as an organization, and it's giving these young people like hope. I go into some of these schools and you talk to the kids, what do they want to do? And it's like they're not aiming high enough, right? Like they're not shooting for the stars. I remember as a kid, our teachers, hey, you need to change the trajectory. Like you need to aim higher. And that's the kind of the goal. Like if you can't see it and you can't touch it, you can't read about it, you can't see, it's not in your general vicinity. It's hard for you to imagine yourself doing that. And that's what I think being able to bridge that digital divide will help these kids with.
You've been involved in global humanitarian efforts as well. You've gone out and visited troops. How has travel and exposure to different cultures influenced your approach in giving back?
There was a quote that I heard a long time ago was, travel is the one thing you can do that costs money that makes you rich. And, being able to go out in different communities around the world, they might speak a different language. They might worship a different God. But, at the end of it, everybody just wants to be loved and they want to love, right? They want to share intimate moments with the people they care about. Like, so people are the same everywhere you go. And I think the more times you're able to get out in different communities and see people in their native languages and lands, like you become more compassionate, you become more thoughtful. And I think the world becomes a lot smaller when you actually go out and see it.
So true. Many young athletes look up to you as a role model. What advice would you give them about using their platform for positive change?
Well, I think, you have to kind of find out what is important to you first and foremost. I knew young what I kind of wanted to focus on when I think about how I want to serve my communities. But that was an example that I was able to receive, fortunately, from my parents, right, at a young age. A lot of young people don't have that direction. That's what I see as you get older. There'll be causes that you see and you hear about that just kind of hit you. You know, it could be food insecurities. You might have been a young person that, you know, in the summertime without school, you didn't get breakfast or lunch. You only got dinner. Like that might be a pain point for you, right? You know, might be um, after school activities with Boys and Girls Club. You know, like maybe you didn't play any sports, and you know, going to the Boys and Girls Club was your opportunity to go learn how to play chess and you know learn other life skills and get positive mentorship, right? So like, there's going to be things that are going to resonate and connect with you as you get older. I say just be open to exploring those things, and I think if you do that, you'll find something that you're passionate about.
The Heisman Trophy Trust will honor you at the Heisman weekend in December and gift your foundation with a $75,000 gift. Looking ahead, what are your long-term goals for the Larry Fitzgerald Foundation, and how do you hope its legacy will continue to grow?
Well, I mean, we try not to look at and talk about legacy that much. We try to stay like grounded and be where our feet are, right? Address the needs of today, you know, not so much what's going to be happening 5 and 10 years ago. People need resources like right now, today. And I think, you know, we really want to continue to stay focused on that. That's something that we talk about a lot as an organization, and, you know, putting out the fires as they come, you know, especially in the communities that we serve.
Let's talk a little football. Are you following college football these days?
I wouldn't say I follow it, you know, like super close. You know, there's games that I'll watch if I don't have anything going on. My kids are all got all type of activities and sports on the weekend. So there's some weeks I'm able to catch a game or two, and there's others that I don't watch TV at all. So,
Right.
but there are games that I watch, you know, periodically.
We had Jeremiah Smith on the show earlier this year, as well as Mekhi Lemon, two fantastic receivers. Are you familiar with them at all?
Yeah, I got a chance to see Jeremiah obviously in the playoffs last year, and I think um, I watched the Texas game when they played Ohio State played them, and I saw Mekhi. We went out to a USC Michigan game. I saw him play there, and then I watched the Notre Dame game when he played against the Irish. So yeah, both of them immensely talented. I think, you know, Mekhi probably be, you know, top 15 pick this year in the draft, and obviously Jeremiah, when he's eligible next year, will do the same. And so really cool to watch these young players kind of just thrive and blossom with so many skills.
Yeah. Going back to 2003, what a year you had: 92 receptions, 1,672 yards, 18.2 per catch, 22 touchdowns, Heisman runner-up. What was that experience like going to New York for you?
Well, it was great. I mean, to be able to sit there and get to know Jason White and Chris Perry and Eli Manning, relationships that I still have, you know, to this day, really meaningful. And to be able to get there and meet the Mike Roziers of the world and Desmond Howards and Billy Sims and all these amazing athletes who came before us that you hear about and you heard, you watched, you know, as a young player, and to see that tradition continue to go on. It was a really awesome experience for me.
Fairly close vote as well. Jason White, of course, won. Was it a difficult thing as a competitor to come up short in that vote?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I felt like I was the best player in the country, and deserving of winning the trophy. But you know, I didn't play for a national championship. You know, like Jason, I didn't play the marquee position. I didn't go to a blue blood school. In terms of, you know, over the last 30 years, you know, Oklahoma had won multiple national championships. And so I think a couple of those things kind of went against me. You know, I was also a true sophomore, and no receiver had ever won the Heisman, you know, just as a receiver.
Yeah.
You know, that's changed now, but, you know, I felt like I deserved it, but, you know, things happen for a reason. And, you know, I'm very happy with the experience that I had in college. It was amazing.
Did you ever wonder what if you had won?
No, you know, I don't, I don't know. I try not to go back in time and think about things like that, because maybe my NFL career might not have turned out the same, you know?
Yeah.
And so you see a lot of Heisman Trophy winners who are phenomenal in college, and then their pro careers don't go the way they hoped it would go. So, you know, my pro career went, you know, better than I ever could have expected. And I was very happy for that.
I saw you recently with Eli Manning on a segment where you were actually molding the Heisman over at the Heisman factory. How was that experience, jerking around with Eli? And then Jason White shows up at the end. That looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was good to kind of like go back down memory lane and beat up on it a little bit, put out a little bit of our frustration from the years past. It was cool to be able to do that. I'm really close with Eli. We see each other, all over the place, a few times a year. So it was good to be able to do that with him and have some laughs and giggles.
Well, before we go, can you just tell our audience how they can help out with your foundation, how they can contribute, where they can find out more information?
Yeah, the Larry Fitzgerald Foundation.org is where you can go and learn more information about what we're doing. If you'd like to make a contribution to our efforts, there's a place you can go in there to donate. We still have a lot of great things that we have in store. Can't talk about them yet. They're still in their preliminary phases, but I'm honored to be able to come to New York and be there with the Heisman Trophy group and meet some more amazing people and spend a weekend there in the city. So really look forward to meeting you in person and, seeing everybody else when I'm there.
Likewise, you get to finally give a speech with the Heisman sitting there, right?
I'm going to take it home with me too.
Well, Larry Fitzgerald, the 2025 Heisman Humanitarian Award winner, congratulations on that honor. Thank you for taking the time to share your vision on the Heisman Trophy podcast. And we'll see you in New York. We wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, my friend.
All right. That was the legendary Larry Fitzgerald, the 2025 Heisman Humanitarian Award, 2003 Heisman runner-up, all-around stellar human being. Much thanks to his people for setting up that interview. Folks, the next time you hear from me, we will know who the 4 Heisman Trophy finalists are for 2025. And I will be in New York City to cover it all. Remember to like, subscribe, review, tell your family, tell a friend about the Heisman Trophy podcast. Exclusive videos over at YouTube and TikTok. There's 2 more episodes to go. Let's make it count. The Heisman Trophy podcast streams every Wednesday during the college football season and is hosted, produced, edited, and engineered by Chris Houston. The pod is available on all streaming networks, including Spotify and Apple Music, and features video interviews and bonus content on YouTube and TikTok. We also have a Reddit community. Special shout out to Isaac Lowenkron, and big thanks to Rob Whalen, Tim Henning, and the Heisman Trust for their support. Reach out to us via email at pod@heisman.com for feedback and commentary.